So my name is Nicole Carter. I'm a part of the digital curriculum crew. It's our idea that making videos potentially could be something really, really helpful as we go into fall. So getting started on it now, I think will again help you become a little bit more comfortable with it. Okay, so I'm a part of your district. So just know as you start these things out, if you're having troubles, email me and I will get back to you as soon as I can. Today's PD is all about teaching and engaging our students. If you came to my Flip Classroom PD yesterday, you'll know that we talked about the research is showing that students connect and engage and watch videos when you make them as a teacher, because it's your personality, your voice, and it helps them connect to you. As we start in the fall where we haven't necessarily met our students face to face, this becomes incredibly imperative. So not only is it about teaching your current content and meeting our priority standards, but it's also about engaging with the kids because it's your voice. All right, as I said yesterday, the equity lens should be a part of all of our decision making moving forward. The flipped classroom does allow us to be able to provide accessibility for students that they might not have otherwise had. It allows them to go at their own pace. It allows them to speed up or slow down a video. It's a reteaching tool. There's lots going on here, and it's just a part of what we're doing. So keep that equity lens in mind as we move forward. Yesterday, I mentioned this in the flipped classroom video or PD. The idea of building your own instructional videos, the majority of the time is spent in the planning. Your recording of those videos significantly decreases the more comfortable you come with the different platforms you might be using. And then it's your choice at that point whether you just record in one go, just like we would in the classroom when we're giving us a lecture, or if you want to take it a step further and start adding in some editing pieces. That obviously is going to add to your recording time. For me personally, I did it in increments over years worth of time as I became more comfortable with things. So give yourself grace and know that a simple recording, pressing record while you're on a Zoom is totally good enough, and it's up to you how much farther you want to take that. So that's the part of the enhancing piece. And then today we will talk about how you will share your videos with your kids. Yesterday I mentioned that we all have a YouTube channel attached to our Beaverton School District email and Google accounts. And so I'll show you how to get that set up so you can start using that. Yesterday, I briefly started talking about my own journey with the flipped classroom, and I realized that people really wanted me to make sure that they understood the idea or concept of a flipped classroom. The flipped classroom idea is basically where you're taking direct instruction anytime that you might be doing a lecture in front of students and making that into a video. Pre-COVID, the idea or the reason it was called flipped classroom was because normally your lecture would be done in class and then students would go out of class to apply their learning. So we flipped that idea. So as an English teacher, for example, I might do a lecture or a mini lesson on how to write an introductory paragraph for an essay, and then students would have to then go home and write their introductory essay, losing out on that valuable face-to-face time with me and their peers. So when we flip that script and we take that lecture into a video where they can watch that at home at their own pace and time, then we're actually using in-class face-to-face time for that valuable interaction where I can help coach them through the process and they can meet with their peers as well. So that is the idea of flipped classroom when we're in a normal, regular, face-to-face, going to campus experience. In this time, that's not necessarily what we're experiencing. So we're having to kind of rephrase some of the components and think in terms of asynchronous and synchronous learning. Especially when we are dealing with large groups of students, we have to rethink how can we keep our students working on something while we might be doing small group work on a Zoom, for example. So I've had a lot of teachers ask, how do I monitor behavior if I'm going into a breakout room or something like that? So providing other things for students to do, almost like a station rotation idea while we're in an online environment, a part of that could be your own video instructional videos. So it's a lot to break down, and quite frankly, until we know a little bit more about what our daily schedules are going to look like in the fall, it's hard to give you even more concrete examples than that. But that's the basic components of why instructional videos, or in fact the term flipped classroom, has been tossed around a bit by administration in the last month or so. In terms of how I've gone through this process, my admin came to me and said, we're going to be a STEM school and you're going to have to lose curriculum to support that STEM movement. And that was really challenging for me. I kind of shut down and I had to try and figure out how I couldn't lose curriculum to still support STEM. And that's when I started doing the flipped classroom, because I realized that I could go deeper with concepts and potentially provide more hands-on activities that were more STEM based in the classroom when I wasn't so focused on lectures. As I continued with that process, I quickly realized I was creating so much online content, even though this was pre-COVID. In fact, this was 7 years ago. I realized I had so much online content that I needed to organize it in a way that the kids could easily get it and navigate through the content. And so that's when really utilizing a learning management system like Canvas became imperative. So I began building a lot more content within Canvas by my end of my first year, just because the sheer volume of work that I had for students needed to be organized. By year 2, I realized that I needed to work on the videos themselves. All of the research shows, and we might talk about that, but all the research shows that the videos need to be short to keep our students engaged. So a lot of my videos when I very first started were upwards of 15 minutes or more. So in my year 2, I re-recorded everything. I tried to make all of my content more concise, and I was able to cut my video times in half. So I was usually under 10 minutes for all of my videos. And then I started working in the classroom on providing more feedback for my students and more opportunities for them to work peer-to-peer. At the time, I was not in a school district that supported a workshop model, and I was headed that route without even knowing that's what I was doing. Now, once I got into year 3, I started really thinking and planning out my online coursework. So that's one thing that we've been talking with teachers a lot about as we've been doing this PD on the Patio series, the humanizing aspect of creating online coursework and really thinking about student choice and elevating that student identity through that student choice. And part of that became creating self-paced modules in Canvas. So it was an evolution over time, and flipped classroom was a large part of that, because I quickly was able to realize, even as a secondary teacher, that I could start to do small group interventions in a classroom of 40 when there was only one of me. And that becomes kind of difficult, right? In terms of how do we figure out how to do that? And so it was almost like I was cloning myself by creating extra instructional videos. Now, as I said before, it was a timeline or a continuum in terms of my skills. When I very first started, the very first use I did was I started using Screencastomatic, which is something we will show today. So Screencastomatic is free. It will always be free, but it is a web-based platform that requires you to download a screen recording piece to your computer. It does limit you to 15 minutes. And I think at first I started to get really frustrated with that, and it only allows for a small amount of editing. So once I was ready to start working on my videos a little bit more, I realized that I was limited with Screencastomatic. So that's when I started. After that, I started to get a little bit more adventurous with my presentations. At the time, I was using PowerPoint to start with, and then I moved from PowerPoint into Prezi. Does anyone remember Prezi? My students quickly told me that Prezi made them a little bit dizzy because it does a lot of zooming in and zooming out. So I ended up listening to their feedback, and I stopped using Prezi, to be perfectly honest, and I switched over to Google Slides. But I really did start to rethink the information design and how I was giving information to my students through the slides. The slides were predominantly what I would use as my teaching materials. So there's a lot of different options for how you might make your videos. You might make your videos where you're using a document camera and you're handwriting out something, maybe a math problem or working through a science equation. I don't know. You could also be doing Khan Academy-like videos, right? We've seen those videos before. So those style of videos is something you could do. You could also do annotation through articles. But if you have just content knowledge, a lot of times that looks like a screen recording over a slide deck. And the reason we call it a slide deck instead of like a PowerPoint presentation is just simply because PowerPoint is a part of a Microsoft product, and there's lots of other options in terms of providing slides. So that's why we moved to calling it a slide deck. So after that experience, I started then saying, okay, I've got this. I'm going to start to use iMovie to edit my videos. And that is just a rabbit hole. And honestly, I've tried a couple of other video editing programs and I just keep coming back to iMovie because it works for me. So there's a lot you can do with iMovie, and I'm continuing to learn more. And I think, as I said yesterday when I was talking about Flipped Classroom, I have started recently watching a lot more videos about how students, and I say students because they're mostly high school students, are creating YouTube videos bouncing back and forth between their laptop and phone applications to add fun fonts and stylized drawings and different animation pieces. So I continue to evolve and learn as I go, but again, it's a continuum and I just build on my skills. So keep that in mind. All right. And before we go into a live demo, a couple of things to talk about. I have in the past spent good money, and in fact, I have it right here and I'll try and pull it out. I ended up buying or asking for Christmas. Can everyone see this? I bought this microphone and thought it was the greatest, but in the end, I come back to just using good old-fashioned AirPods or earbuds. These have a built-in microphone, and in fact, when I went off to an Apple Academy, they gave us all these and just said, just use this. You don't need anything extra or special. There are some things that you could go out and buy a microphone and get really high quality audio, but honestly, I don't think you need it for this. So if you have any access to Apple earbuds like this or any kind of microphone, earphones that have a built-in microphone, use that. You don't necessarily have to do the ones that are big and bulky with the microphone that comes down. You can if you want to, but you don't need to. I've seen headphones like this on Amazon anywhere from 10 to 20 bucks if you don't already have them. And then I think, again, once you've done your planning and you've got your teaching materials, whether that's a slide deck or a website, or you're going to use a document camera of some sort, then you need to just make a decision about what you're going to use to record your video. We're going to start talking about Zoom because, quite frankly, we've all been on Zoom so much lately that it's probably something that you feel pretty comfortable with, and it couldn't be easier to create your own videos. I know we had a lot of teachers in spring really fall in love with Loom. We had a lot of, what is the word we call it? When products are out there and they're offering it to us for free, but it's not really free. They just want to, you know, get their hooks into us. Loom was one of those. And unfortunately, Loom and Microsoft do not like to, freemium apps. That's exactly it. Thank you, Alicia. Freemiums. So Loom did not sign our student data privacy agreement. So Loom is not something that we have access to anymore. And I know that that's a big bummer because a lot of people really enjoyed it. So some of the options I'm going to be talking about today are kind of our workaround if you were using Loom and you want to keep doing that. So the reason something like Loom, Zoom, Screencastify, or even Screencastomatic becomes helpful or important is because it allows you to record a screen sharing, meaning you can talk through your slide deck or whatever, as well as record your face. So one of the ones that I always use or default to is QuickTime because it's a free program that's already on our teacher computers, but it doesn't allow for us to record our face at the same time. So you need to make that decision on if that is an important part of the process. When I used to do Flipped Classroom, I asked my students all the time, is it okay if it's just my voice, or do you want to see my face? And many of them said at the time it was fine, they didn't need my face. I think now in the time of COVID, having your face pop up occasionally might be a good thing, just so that they see you, right? But that's up to you. If you do not feel comfortable with your face being on there, then choose a different app, right? Or turn it off. All of these options allow you to turn your webcam on or off, so you can make that decision, okay? So it's kind of hard when we're all using Zoom on our teacher devices to walk you through a live demo, so I'm gonna do my best. If you are actually watching me on an iPad or an iPhone and you have your teacher device in front of you and you wanna try these things out, feel free to do that. And I would highly recommend that for the rest of our video series, as well as our Google Slides series. I'm going to make a quick plug because I forgot to do that yesterday. We will have a 3-part series all on Google Slides where we will continuously build up our skills on how to use Google Slides. I can't stress enough that a big part of the humanizing experience and engagement of our students is to rethink how we're giving our information to our students. They are savvy consumers of content. They watch YouTube. they watch TikTok, they watch all of these things where people are putting tons of effort and energy into providing them with a really great experience. And if we are designing stuff that looks like something from the 1990s, they are turned off, right? So we have to up our game a little bit, and there's ways to do that without feeling stressed out. So we want to make sure that we give you some of those skills as well. So the Google Slide series is 3 parts: basic, intermediate, and advanced, and we'll just build on those skills. But I think if you're thinking in terms of teaching materials and instructional videos, most of the time for Full Classroom, it's a slide deck. So why not build up your skills on using Google Slides and making slide decks, so that you feel like you have a really nice product for your students to stare at while you're talking to them. Okay, so talking a little bit about Zoom, I think I've kind of already talked to you a little bit about why I think the pros and cons kind of a thing. Zoom, again, is going to be something you're already familiar with. You just have to start it, press screen share and record, and you're off and running. You basically only need to know how to share your screen. You do have like the whiteboard kind of pieces that you can work on and use, although I would admit writing with the trackpad on your computer is really hard, and it's not something I would recommend. So if you think that you're going to be someone that's going to be doing any kind of annotation, then we need to talk about something completely different, right? That might be use of a teacher iPad or some sort of document camera. And maybe we can kind of say in the chat, if you guys will let me know. I'm trying to think, what was my plan for the next video series? Because I know I have a class where I'm going to be talking about how to use your teacher iPad in the fall for instruction, which will totally talk about how to use your teacher iPad or a phone as a document camera. Okay, so I'm just looking at what my video, make your video intermediate is going to be. So we're going to be talking about QuickTime, and we're going to be talking quite a bit about iMovie editing. So maybe I might slide into that one, how to create a document camera or use your iPad. So that might be something we'll do in the next class. Okay, so the other piece, Zoom is not going to allow you any kind of editing. Once you hit record, it's just going to go, right? And it isn't until you end your Zoom class or leave the room that the recording really stops and it starts to process your video. So keep that in mind, okay? So no real editing. So that's the other thing too, and I said that in the Flip Classroom PD, is that you don't need to have a script. I prefer to do these videos usually when I'm in a room by myself, because I use my hands and I talk just as if I was in front of the classroom. You want to have that intonation into your voice so you don't sound like a robot, right? So you don't need a script. You don't need to make it perfect. If your dog comes running in clickety-clacketing on the floor, mention it, right? Let the kids get to know you. They're seeing a little bit of your home and your background anyways. And if something else happens, don't feel like you have to press stop and re-record everything you just did. Roll with it. It makes you more human. Okay. So that being said, if you're on Zoom and you've made a decision, this is the product you're going to use to make a recording. You're going to open up Zoom on your computer, and you're just going to go ahead and press the orange button that says new meeting. And it's just going to open up a room, a Zoom room with just you. So at that point, you can make a decision to turn your video off or on, right? Depends on if you want to use your face or not. And then you're going to have to make a decision. You need to close that so you can see. You're gonna have to make a decision on your teaching materials, and you're gonna have to share your screen. Now, when I share my screen like I'm doing with you right now, I will use a slide deck, and I might actually show this to you. Let's see. Let me open up another window. And I'm going off script. Hopefully you guys are okay with that. If you've ever noticed as you've been doing a Zoom with your students and you've loaded a slide deck like you see here, and you have a lot of lag and it just takes forever, one way that I always present in Zoom or go through things when I'm recording is in like presenter mode, or in fact, I will publish it to the web. That's what you guys are seeing actually. So, when I do this, let me open this up a little. What I will do is I will go into File, and I'll go to Publish to the Web. And then it will ask if I want to use a link or an embed. I just want to stay on link. I don't click anything. I just say publish to web. And I might not, I'm so sorry. But do you see what I mean? You get this lag time that can be a little bit upsetting. So normally down here, it will say publish to web. You click that button and then it will say, are you sure? And you say, okay. So there's two windows that pop up that you just say yes, yes to. And then that is the link. This link here is the link that you use to share or record from. So again, what that's going to do is it's just going to open up really fast. Oops. You know what? I'm just going to close out again this computer. So this screen that you're seeing right now is that publish to web version. So what it does is it just goes straight into present mode, and then it doesn't show you any of your editing tools. And then it also doesn't show you your speaker notes. So if you're using the speaker notes at all to help you as like your script, then that could be a part of the problem. You might want to have another window open. This is not a full screen window. You can kind of maybe see that I'm moving it around a little bit. So it is its own separate window, and I've chosen that. As I hit share screen, I select this window, and then I would select record or start recording at that point. Okay. Once you're done, you then hit end and it will process your video. So you don't get to see anything. Like I said, there's no real editing back and forth. So this is just true nitty gritty, share your screen, record your face. I'm going to talk through something and I'm done, right? Couldn't be easier. It's just a few clicks of your buttons. Most of the time spent here is going to be on getting your teacher materials created, right? And then it's just going through the content. As I've kind of said before, all of the research shows that after about 9 minutes, students' engagement with a video completely drops off. So you want to keep I'm just telling everybody, keep your videos under 10 minutes or less. What I've noticed is I've gone in and looked at lots of different videos. It's interesting on YouTube because their algorithm wants to keep people watching videos and seeing commercials. So they spit YouTube videos at you that are 30 minutes or more. Like they like that because it keeps us on the channel. But most of your content that's really good and stuff for us to consume, like one of my favorite educational channels on YouTube is Crash Course, right? Many of us have seen Crash Course, I'm sure. They explain intense concepts in 15 minutes or less. I went on last night and was searching through their content just to see how long their videos were, and there were very few that were over 15 minutes. So you can do it, but just think about that time continuum. Now, I have seen in some of the questions, both yesterday and today, where people have made comments about the processing time, downloads and uploads and that sort of thing. That definitely depends on what kind of internet capability you have in your home. I predominantly just use Wi-Fi. I do have a high internet speed, I will say that. But even when I do videos, and just recently I edited and processed that comprehensive distance learning 101 thing that we did on Tuesday, and that ended up being, I want to say, like a 45-minute video, and I was able to download that from my editing software and upload it into YouTube really quickly. Same goes with download, upload to Google Drive. So that is something to think about, that your internet speed could make that processing time go a lot slower or faster. Okay, where do you easily save or share your Zoom recordings? Okay, so Zoom will automatically create a folder on your computer. And I'm going to show that a little bit later as just like a catch-all so that we can just look at how that process goes. But basically, it will process the video into a Zoom folder. So you can just do a quick search on your computer for Zoom and it will show your file folders. And I'll show you mine in a minute. And then once you do that, you can just automatically save or drag and drop into your YouTube channel. Now, the reason we're kind of telling everybody about the YouTube channel this year is, quite frankly, a lot of us don't know that we have it, but everybody has a free YouTube channel. And then we also noticed that we started having some issues, especially with some of our TOSA created content. Google Drive only allows you to view a video a certain amount of time, and then it no longer is available for access. So to avoid that completely, upload it to YouTube. You can make it private, public, or unlisted. In order to share it with students, it either needs to be public or unlisted. But maybe if you make a video that you don't want others to see, eventually you can go back in and change that at any time, make it into private or whatever. But if you are a teacher of little ones, I know that that is a big concern. So you do have one more kind of workflow step if you know that you have a community of parents that don't want their students, you know, getting out of Seesaw and going into YouTube. And that would be to take that YouTube video and put it into like a slide deck or even a Google form. You can't put it in a Google Doc. Google Docs won't automatically embed and play a video, but you can do it on a slide deck or on a Google form. And then that's what you would share to Seesaw for your littles, because that will just automatically keep them within the platform. It won't take them to YouTube. Okay. So I'm seeing some questions come in. Anything I need to address right away, Kristen, before I keep going?
Can you, can you talk just real quick about embedding in Canvas or Seesaw?
So we were talking a little bit yesterday, and we're wondering a little bit with some of the new upgrades that Seesaw has. We're wondering if you can, in fact, embed a video into the slides component on Seesaw, which would do the same kind of thing where it embeds it and the kids don't go. But if you take a URL from YouTube and you share it into just the Seesaw main page, it's a link that then they click and it takes them to like a YouTube app, or it takes them to a web browser and shows them YouTube. And that's what we're kind of trying to avoid. So we're going to check on that piece. And we don't know the answer quite yet, but until we do, the workaround would be to put it straight into like I said, a Google slide or a Google form and share the Google form or Google slide instead of just the URL link. Now, if you're in Canvas and you're creating anything in Canvas, whether that's an announcement, whether that's a page, an assignment, a discussion, they all have the same editor. So when you copy and paste your URL into that platform, it will automatically embed the video for you. Now, you technically could hit the little YouTube button in the editor and drop the link in there and upload it. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time. If you're pumping out your own video content, sometimes it won't find it right away. You might have to wait 24 hours for you to be able to find it. But if you just copy and paste your URL into whatever you're creating in Canvas, and then once you hit save and publish, it will automatically embed the video right there. You don't have to do anything extra. Okay, so now we're going to switch over to talking a little bit about Screencastify. So some of the pros and cons. So Screencastify is considered an extension. So I'm going to use my mouse and just kind of point, although I have to make it bigger, sorry. Oh, it's right here. Okay, Screencastify is this thing right here. It's this little arrow and it's an extension. So if you don't know anything about your Chrome browser, here's a little brief tutorial. So within Chrome, you have the ability to use the Omnibar. That's what Google calls it. So the Omnibar does all the things. That's why they call it the Omni. So you don't ever have to go to google.com anymore. You just do your search right there. If you need a timer set, you just set timer 10 minutes. Or if you need a word defined, you type it right there. Like, you don't need to go to Google anymore. Right next to that, you have your star to add a bookmark. Once you add a bookmark to something, you can either put it into your bookmark bar or it goes into your other bookmark folder, and your bookmarks show up all right here. I use bookmarks all the time. I end up rewriting or editing the name on them so I can fit more in my toolbar, because I just know based on the icons what they are. But these things right next to your Omnibar are considered extensions. Now, extensions are just something that you can do within the tab that you are on. So it usually only does one thing. It does one thing really well, but it affects the tab that you are on. Let's see if it'll work. So like this thing right here, it turns the screen lights on and off. Can you see that it kind of dimmed my screen? So that's all that does. That's all that little tiny buttons do. That's it. So Screencastify is considered a part of that. It is a screen recording option that allows you, see, we're going to get a little bit of lag. It allows you to record 3 different ways. So the first way it allows you to record is just within the browser. So basically that means if I have one tab open and I want to record that one tab, like I have here, I have this slide deck going and I want to record this slide deck, but I have notes or something somewhere else and I want to get into my notes and read my script while I'm still recording here, then that's what this browser tab will end up doing. If you do desktop, it records everything you're doing in the screen on your desktop. So that means you could have multiple windows open at one time and it's just recording everything that you're doing. And then the webcam only one is just going to be like a FaceTime recording of your webcam, whatever your webcam sees. So you have those options. You'll also notice on my screen, it says right away, there's a 5-minute limit for your videos. So we're not in a position to buy anything right now. So that's why I'm showing you multiple different access points to creating your own videos. We're not going to be buying this. So keep that in mind. This will limit you to only 5 minutes of recording. And it has the ability to trim the front end and the back end of your video. So let's say you hit record and then it takes you a while to get your teacher materials up. And now you have this like 3 seconds of you fumbling around and you want to trim that off. It allows you to do that. And then it automatically will save your file into Google Drive or straight into your YouTube channel. So it automatically will do that for you. In order to add this to your Chrome, I'm going to show you how to do that now. Okay. So Kristen, can you grab, I guess I could, there is a link attached to that image. Can you drop that in the chat for me?
Yep.
So if you want to grab that link that Kristen's giving you in the chat, or you can follow my instructions as well. So I'm just going to open up a new tab and I'm going to go to the apps launcher. It looks like a waffle in your upper left-hand corner. And then I'm looking for the Google web store. It looks like a shopping bag. So I'm going to click that. And then I'm just going to go ahead and search Screencastify. So consequently, this is how you can add any of these extensions that I have up here. This is how I add them all. This is one of the reasons too that we've always told teachers Chrome is so great, and part of it is because of these extensions. It just helps you with your efficiency on a whole nother level. So I already added it to Chrome, so you just hit the button that says add to Chrome, say yes, when it says can we allow or access to, and then it will be installed as your extension here. So anytime I'm ready to start using that, then I will just click it and start recording. But again, you're limited to that 5 minutes. Okay. Yeah, Kim's saying she used it with the limit and it worked well because it forces you, right? It forces you to rethink and do a short video. So that's the other piece too with Seesaw and files. Both Seesaw and Canvas video files are gigantic. So you can't upload super long videos straight into Seesaw or straight into Canvas as just a file because they're too large. So that's another reason why we would recommend that you use the YouTube channel. Because it just goes there and then they compress it for you and you just have the link to share with the kids. If you've ever tried to share a video file through email, you know it's going to shoot it back and say this file is too big, right? So it's the same concept for both Seesaw and Canvas. You can't just upload that file. And then I think too, the Seesaw updates allows you, Carrie's told me, she said it allows you to have up to 20 slides in their recording platform, and you can do 5 minutes for every slide that you have. So you could create a video straight in Seesaw and do quite a long video for the kids to interact with. On Canvas, you have a recording video in there. It doesn't do a full screen recording. It just does a webcam recording. But you can do up to 5 minutes, I think, with their embedded recording platform. But again, it's just the webcam. So it'd just be your face that you're recording. Okay. The next one I wanted to show you, so you can play around with that once we're off today's session, but hopefully you at least got through the point of adding the Screencastify extension if you haven't already. And then I have a tutorial video linked on the slide here that walks you through that process and then also shows you some of the differences between the 3 different recording categories as well. I think this video is like, it's like 8 minutes long. It's a tutorial that I just made this weekend. Okay. So the next one we're going to talk about, is Screencastomatic. And for this one, you actually, it's different than Screencastify because it's an actual website. So Kristen, this one also has a link. Can you drop that into the chat for everyone too? Or just create a tab and just go to screencastomatic.com and it should take you there. Okay, so we'll see once we open it. Okay, so once you get into Screencastomatic, it's going to ask that you create an account. So anytime you are given the option once you're in here, to create an account, anytime they give you the access of creating with a Google account and you can sign in with your BSD, always do that. So I'm signed in right now with my Beaverton School District email using the Google button. So go ahead and do that part. And then, you know, to get through this whole part, I've already done what I'm about to walk you through. So I can only show you with screenshots. As I make sure every time I install something, I always screenshot what I'm doing so that I can show you later. So as soon as you get into your account, I'm gonna go, okay. So as soon as you get into your account, it looks like this. And then what you're going to do is you're going to click the camera, video recording camera in the top right-hand corner, and you're gonna launch the recorder. The first time you do this, you have to download something to your computer. So if you're not already an admin on your computer, that's a whole nother thing we have to discuss. And you might have to maybe even talk to your building IT person to get that pushed through for you. But once you say launch that, what you're gonna see is down in the bottom, it'll say a download has started and it will ask you if you're okay with saving this content. So click save. And then it will pop up with another window saying it's installing something. And then it will pop up a window that looks like this little box. You just have to double click the box. At the administrative access tool, you can actually, if you go into self-service, friends, if you go into self-service and you type in admin, it should give you that option and it will automatically upload so that you can be able to do all of the things that we're talking about. But it just makes it so that you can actually enter your password and install things yourself instead of having to go to IT for it. Okay, so once you've double clicked that button, then another window will pop up, just say okay, because it's just telling you you have to go back to this screen now. So once you've downloaded all of those pieces, now you're free to launch your recorder. And I think, okay, can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Kristen, help me out.
Yep.
Okay, so everyone hopefully can see that I've got this like weird black and white border around this whole screen. It's picking up my microphone, which is something I always check because I can't tell you how many times I've started tutorial videos or videos in general and my audio is not being picked up. So I always double check. I've literally just happened to me last week. I made a 20-minute video that I was going to edit and cut down that had no audio. So I always double check that it's picking that up. You have the option to change from screen to webcam or both. Again, that both is just going to turn on your FaceTime cam, and then you'll just go in here to record. So it's literally telling me that it's going to record everything that I'm doing on the screen right here. So when I talk about getting your teaching materials ready to go, it needs to be within the screen that you're seeing right here, so that it's recording what you're doing. And you can resize it too. So if you wanted to, it will only record like a small section, right? And then you just, you know, again, hit record. So some of the pros and cons, again, you are limited with Screencast-O-Matic to 15 minutes, and you do have a small ability to edit or trim the front and the back end. I think you also can, in the middle of your recording, hit the pause button and kind of go back and over what you just did if you made a mistake and keep going. So that's a little slightly different than like Screencastify, for example. So that's a little bit, if you find that you are making mistakes that you want to quickly edit or fix in the moment, you can do that. Okay, so a lot of people were asking, how do we upload? I think if I saw that right in the chat, some people were saying, how do we upload to YouTube and how do we upload to Google Drive? So what I'm going to ask you to do is go ahead and go to youtube.com in another tab on your browser. Again, remember, I'm recording everything. So if you can't, you want the video, you want to multitask, that's fine. You can watch this later. But once we get into YouTube, we're going to go up here to the top right-hand corner. You should see your face or your initials. And what you're going to do is you're going to click on your channel. And if anyone is seeing something differently, this is again one of those instances where I've had my channel set up for quite a few years. And I'm trying to remember maybe what the windows look like for you guys. So hopefully yours says your channel. Once you hit that, it's probably going to ask, if you've never set up your channel before, a window will pop up asking you if you want to create your own channel. It might even give you a space to type out what you want your name to be. And then you're going to say create. In the past, there's been like a 24-hour wait time for your channel to be up and running, for you to begin to upload and add things to. So if you're doing it with me right now, come tomorrow, you should be able to start uploading some videos. Correct me if I'm wrong, if anyone else is seeing something differently.
I'm seeing channel not approved, and it still has my Beaverton address.
Is there a button? So there's no buttons for you to say approve channel. Have you looked at it recently? It was telling me last night after that I said something last night, and they went and did theirs.
I just had the same thing because I apparently hadn't set mine up, and I had in the right hand side, I had an approve button, and I just clicked it and it refreshed, and then now it's good.
Okay. To your little icon. Is it this little icon you're talking about?
Thank you, that worked. I appreciate it.
Okay. Okay, so once you have that uploaded, I mean, there's so much in here that we could actually talk about within the YouTube channel, and even I myself am learning more and more about it. That will be kind of more in the advanced section probably, as we talk a little bit about, like creating playlists. Sometimes that can be helpful for students to give them a full playlist of your videos to watch through. They also have some editing tools in here, and they even have an audio library with different attribution, both sound effects and background music that you can use, meaning some of them are free to use without attribution, and then some you have to give attribution within the description that you're using it. So lots of really good stuff that you can do here, but basically all you have to do is create or say, I want to upload a video, and then you can drag and drop your video straight into that platform. So I'm going to actually, okay, so it's as simple as, I'm going to show you. So I have this like Zoom file folder. So this has, for example, oops, it keeps popping over into the wrong spot. So this is after doing a Zoom recording. These are all of the items that come through once it starts to process the file, but I'm basically looking for a video file. This is the video file from that particular one. All I would have to do is just drag and drop it, and it will automatically start uploading to my YouTube channel for me. Once you go through that process, you will add a title and a description. Once it processes, it will pick a couple of thumbnails. So if it picks a thumbnail that you absolutely hate, you can come back and change that at any time. It will ask you if this is made for kids. So that's one way that they're trying to keep your content safe. So definitely tell it, if you're creating content that's for students 13 or over, you don't have to say that it was made for kids, but if you're making content for anyone 13 and under, then say yes, it was made for kids. And then as you kind of go through, so yeah, okay. So I don't ever do anything on this page. And then as we get into the visibility, this is where we talk about going from private, unlisted, or public. So that's totally up to you. I think, again, thinking about the community that you have, if you have a community where parents are maybe not so cool with YouTube, then you might be in the unlisted section. If you are totally fine with people finding your video, using your video, then you would go to public. So up to you. I think in order for anyone to see it, you need to be either unlisted or public. If you list it as private, then no one can see it, even when you share it with the students. You'd have to like individually say what students could watch it. Other than that, scheduling, if you make a video but you don't want it to publish until 10 a.m. tomorrow, you can actually schedule that. I don't necessarily see a reason for us to use that as teachers, but it's an option. And then you would just go ahead and click publish. The other thing we were talking about yesterday a little bit was teachers saying how, if we create videos and we want to be able to share those with other teachers, what avenues or platforms do we have for that? And that's something that we'll have to kind of think about, because I do think as fall comes around, we probably will have a lot of content created that might be really awesome to share with other teachers. One thing that comes to mind is to tag it with like BSD flipped videos or something like that. We could create a hashtag. We could create maybe a Canvas course where people share things too. We could maybe do just a doc or a spreadsheet. I don't know. You guys tell us if that's something you're interested in, because we definitely want to encourage that we share things back and forth with each other. Again, emphasizing that when you create it yourself and it's your voice and your face that you're sharing with your students, that helps with the engagement. So it could even be something where you maybe don't share your end published piece, but maybe you have content teacher materials that you created, like the slide deck or something, that you're willing to share with other people so they can just do their recording or voiceover. That would be a good option. Okay, so I think Google Drive is the exact same process. So if I were to go into my Google Drive, I would just drag and drop, same deal. I always create folders so that I know exactly where things are. I would just drag and drop. If I wanted to put it in a specific folder, I'd open that up, but it's just the same exact process. So do a search of any kind. You can even go into all of your files. And if you don't see it right away, if you're in all files and you right click, you can have it arranged by like date created. And if you just finished it, then it should show up as a file within that top portion, so you don't have to go hunting for it. I do that often because sometimes it's hard for me to find. Okay, and I think for the most part, so we did upload to Google Drive. We talked about uploading to YouTube. Yeah, so I know I went over time. You never quite know when you do live demos. So we'll drop in the chat for you guys. Survey, give us information. What else do you need to see? People seem to say in the chat that they were really excited about thinking about how to use a teacher iPad. So it's stuff like that that we need to hear from you. What would be helpful? How would this course maybe be a little bit more helpful? I think sometimes it's hard when we're doing something live for you to be able to do as I do. But as you get started with recording some of these things and you have some more feedback, feel free to email me, say, hey, this didn't work. Hey, stop telling people about Screencastify. Screencastomatic is the way to go. Those kinds of things. In the intermediate session tomorrow, we're going to be talking a little bit about QuickTime, and we'll start diving into some editing features. And then I think I said, I need to make a note that we would talk a little bit about using an iPad as well. So that will be something that we'll be doing in the next video series, which is next Wednesday, same time next week.